sun is starting to come out. We had a crazy storm last night, and it's still pretty windy and kind of blustery, but the sun's coming out, so we're getting some solar, which is great, and it might actually be a good beach day. How'd the gazelle do?
Pretty good.
Good? Yeah.
It, you know, a little bit of groundwater, but that's just runoff. But it felt relatively dry inside.
Yeah, good.
Dry.
Yeah, Red is usually not scared of thunderstorms, but at about 3 in the morning, this guy was like up on the pillows. So he was a little freaked out by it. It was a pretty strong coastal storm.
I just pulled it out, but the only damage was this is pushed in.
Oh, that got pushed in by the wind. Yeah.
And then if it was really bad, you can guide these out. And...
Yeah, which will take a little while. It held up pretty well with that storm. That was pretty windy.
Yeah, have all the stakes in all the way around.
That's the thing, because this thing is like a sail.
Yep.
If you don't stake it down really well. We found that out the hard way one day when it flipped over. But it's great having this little nook back here because it protects us from the constant wind, because it is very windy here. My favorite part is it's quiet. It is so quiet. Nobody's blasting music. You just hear the wind and the water, which is exactly what we were looking for. A couple weeks ago, we went tent camping for a family party. We just wanted to stay in the area where the party was going to be because it was a couple hours away from home, so we figured, oh, well, we'll tent camp for 2 nights just so that we're in the area. And it ended up being one of the worst camping nights we've ever had. The campground, it wasn't even that full, but there was a group there who was in full party mode, and they were blasting their music, like blasting their music until 11:30. I was in bed in the tent, I had earplugs in, and I could still hear their music loud and clear. And it was one of those things where like there were no rangers around. I never saw anybody who actually worked there. Nobody ever drove through to check that people were observing quiet hours. So different campgrounds, I think, kind of run differently. So safe to say we're never going back to that campground. Yeah, we didn't sleep very well that night. We were supposed to stay a second night. We did not. We just packed up the next day and said that we would drive home because we didn't want to have to endure that again. But now we're finally at a place where it's real nature camping. It's quiet. You just hear the sounds of nature instead of people blasting their music, which is my favorite thing. And there's a tick. That's a bigger one. The one I had on me yesterday was a little smaller, but they are here. Man. This whole trip was planned around Patrick's new surfboard and him wanting to try it out. And even though the waves weren't supposed to be great today, he got his board ready and we were going to head down to the beach. You ready to go to the beach? Yeah, you seem a little excited. Okay, come on. Good. So now you're good at jumping. That's good, because otherwise it'd be hard to hold.
Yeah. That helps a lot, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Our campsite was very close to the boardwalk that goes through the dunes and takes you up to the beach. It is a little bit of a walk, especially when you're carrying things, but it's doable. It's not bad.
Busy.
I totally see why people get the Oversand vehicle pass so that you can drive out there. It's easier that way to bring all of your stuff if you're really going to stay for the day, which a lot of people do. They set up a whole little site on the beach so that they can be out there all day. I was surprised how warm the water was. I was expecting the typical cold ocean that we get at the Jersey Shore for most of the year, but the water was very pleasant here.
Hey, Sandy, to you. Hey.
We tried to get down here early enough that there was still some spaces on the beach, and the sand wasn't too hot for Red's feet. This was the first time that Pat was at the beach with Red, and he was going surfing. And this is when we figured out that Red does not like this. For some reason, he got really upset every time Pat would go in the water.
You're fine. Stop. That was a good one at the end.
The whole time Pat was in the water, I was just trying to keep Red from being a maniac, so I wasn't able to get any good shots of Pat surfing, but he did catch a few good waves, even though the surf wasn't great, and he's still kind of getting used to his new board, but it was fun. We came back to the Scamp for lunch and to get a break from the sun, because it was getting really, really intense, and we don't do well in the sun. I had a hat and lots of sunscreen on, but there's no amount of sunscreen that can make either one of us do well in the sun. That's just the way it is. So we came back and we're just hanging out at camp, and it's so pleasant. The EcoFlow is doing awesome. Obviously we've got a lot of sun here. I was just doing a little bit of work. Computer is charging. It's so nice to have this system working so well. I haven't set up the Starlink yet today. I'll do that a little bit later because I'm a day late on getting a video up, sorry. And Red is pretty exhausted because he was a little bit of a maniac at the beach. He did not like when Patrick went into the water. He started barking, making a scene. But this is our spot to hang out for the afternoon. Not bad. Yeah, get a little reading and work done. You gonna re-wax your board?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go warmer.
It was, yeah, the water is too warm. It's actually really nice. I don't really like I'm kind of picky about water temperature. I don't like going swimming if it's cold, but the water felt really good. I was surprised. I'm so used to New Jersey where it's cold until the end of the season. It's never really nice until maybe like a week in September or something. It might be pleasant, but other than that, it's always cold. So yeah, really enjoying this. We wanted to have a nice meal for this great relaxing beach day, and I had some tilapia that I had defrosted, so I cooked that up in the pan with some different spices, and we had all the things that we needed to make some delicious fish tacos. Just a great beach day meal, and you can see this is one of Patrick's favorite things that I make. So we really enjoyed that, and we were using the Gazelle at this point because it was a little bit buggy. But one of the tricks that we do when we are dry camping is we have this Nemo shower, and you can step on it to pressurize it, and it has this little nozzle. So I use that to wash dishes because it's almost the same thing as having running water in the Scamp, but I just use my little folding bucket. You step on the little attachment at the bottom that puts air into it, and Redford, of course, was supervising as usual, making sure that everything was working well. You step on this little thing at the bottom, it pressurizes the tank with the water in it, and then you can just use the nozzle to wash. It's a very nice evening, and we are going to take this wild dog for a walk. Going to the beach during the day is great when you get to enjoy the water and it's hot. But my favorite time to go down to the beach is actually in the evening, right when the sun is going down. Most people have left. You don't have to worry about sunburn. And the sky has the most beautiful colors. We took that walk down the boardwalk again, and now the beach was almost empty. On our way back, I took Red for a longer walk around the campground when Pat went back to get a shower. I really wanted to scope out some other good campsites that might potentially work for our next trip. As we were walking up on the ridge, we saw all of these dragonflies zigzagging around in the sky. There were so many of them, and they were huge. It was very pleasant walking around this campground. It was usually quiet, and even until a couple days before 4th of July, there were usually some spots open. and we got another nice coastal storm. There was a lot of heat lightning as we were getting ready to go to bed. It was a very nice morning, nice and sunny. It was starting to heat up as the sun came out. And this was the day that we started to have some issues with the electrical system of the Scamp. Now, I was trying to work a little bit on this trip, so we brought the Starlink and we brought the EcoFlow because we were dry camping, so no electric hookups whatsoever. I was totally relying on the solar to be able to work on my laptop, and it had been working great the first couple days, but then it was getting weird where certain outlets in the Scamp weren't working, the fan wasn't running correctly, and at first we just thought, well, okay, maybe we'll just switch things around. Maybe the battery in the Scamp is not charging properly or it needs to be replaced, so that's kind of throwing off the electrical system. Nice, that goes solar panels into the EcoFlow, into the Scamp.
Yeah.
Pretty efficient. I don't think it would be a camping RV trip if I didn't tell you what was broken or not working as it should. So last night when we were sleeping, we usually put our overhead fan on, right? And then that just kind of keeps the airflow while you're sleeping. It hasn't been obnoxiously hot, knock on wood. It's been okay. It's been pretty pleasant at night. So just having the fan on, we've been sleeping really well. But last night we noticed that when I turned on this one overhead light, it was kind of dimmer than it normally is. And the fan was going a little slower than it normally does. And we were like, oh, maybe the RV battery is getting low because we didn't have it plugged in. So we plugged in the EcoFlow today because we're getting great solar. The EcoFlow is doing a fantastic job here. The solar is pretty much 100% every day. I've been charging my laptop. We've been able to use the Starlink so I can have internet to get some work done. Wonderful. That has been so great because when we were in Florida, I was getting really frustrated with that. We had power at our campsites in Florida, but there were so many trees that I couldn't get the Starlink to ever work actually at our campsite, or if it did, it was like very spotty. So I wasn't really able to feel like I got the hang of like working while we're traveling, where here I feel like if we spent more time, I could actually get some significant work done because as long as the sun is out, the EcoFlow is doing its job and the Starlink works because we have a good open sky. But we're not really sure what's going on. The RV battery, we haven't changed it, so maybe it needs a new battery. But at the same time, the battery shouldn't matter if the Scamp is plugged into the EcoFlow and it's just running off of that, because my laptop is charging, so the outlets are working. If we're not plugged in, the outlets don't work. So it's kind of a mystery right now. We checked the fuses are okay. We switched one of them out. That didn't seem to make any difference, so it's still kind of a mystery. So we're using our battery-powered fan right now, which is okay. That'll do the job. I'm about to cook, so it's probably going to get pretty hot in here. And if you remember from Florida, the problems we were having with the fridge. Right before we left on this trip, Pat took the entire front of the fridge off. We played around with the knobs because a lot of people left really helpful comments about issues that you guys have had with your fridges and how the knob kind of disconnected, and we were really hoping it was going to be a quick fix like that where we just needed to kind of reconnect the temperature gauge. But what we figured out is there's a broken piece in the back of the fridge and it's in like the worst spot to try to reach. There's no way. We would have to take the entire fridge out, take some of the pieces off the back of the fridge to be able to reconnect that little plastic thing that controls the temperature gauge. So at that point we were both like, this is a bigger job than anything that we were willing to take on at that point. So we left it because the fridge still gets cold. It just gets too cold and we can't really control the temperature. Actually, right now it's perfect. It's right in the middle of where we want it. And I think part of that is it's hot. So the fridge is probably struggling just enough that it's actually keeping it in the perfect range, and it hasn't frozen anything yet. We'll see when I take out the eggs, because that was the big problem in Florida. It kept freezing anything in the back of the fridge. The eggs in the back half of the carton would all be frozen. So luckily the fridge is still working, because we looked on Scamp at the new fridge, and just to buy the fridge is like $1,800. So that's a major purchase. So we're not going to be doing that right now. We're going to see how the rest of the season goes and then come up with a plan. Maybe replace the fridge next year. We'll see. I was really glad that the fridge was working even a little bit, because it's so much more difficult to travel when you don't have refrigeration. Then we would have to just rely on freeze-dried camping meals, and we really don't like doing that if we don't have to. So let's hope the fridge hangs in there a little bit longer, and we'll figure it out in the future. But I was going to make pancakes for breakfast, which is something that I don't normally do, but it's a nice camping treat to have some banana pancakes. I love how the container for the Starlink doubles as our table, because it's huge. I did not realize how large Starlink was until we got it. When you see it on videos, it doesn't really give it great perspective, but it's the perfect camping table, and we don't have to buy another piece of equipment. And there's a helicopter, because there is an airport right over here. It's a small airport, but you get some of that. When there's no airplanes taking off, it is actually very quiet here, which we are really enjoying. Once in a while, someone will be running their generator, because it's dry camping, so you got to get power. That's one of the things I love about the solar generator, is that it's quiet and it's making you electricity. That is wonderful. So I usually show you things that we got for the trip. This is a fan that is supposed to mist you. I don't like it. It doesn't work. In theory, I was really excited about this, that it would like cool you off and kind of spray water at you so that you would really feel cool. It's too weak. It doesn't really do anything. The things that we did get that I really like are these cooling towels. You just wet them and it really does make you feel cooler, and I like it because I'll put it over my shoulders to try to keep myself from getting burnt. So it gives you a little bit of sun protection too, which is really nice. So that was a good addition. But yeah, that fan, that was a fail. We're getting rid of that. This is our old battery operated fan. This one works fairly well, considering that you just charge it and then use it as a fan. So that's gonna save us until we figure out what's going on with that fan. And yeah, that's really it. Now we're gonna try to figure out what our plan is for the day. Pat's eating, and it's about almost 10:30, so it is starting to get hot. Let's see, listen how quiet. And I'm surprised that it's not that windy. It was so windy when we got here, and I kind of assumed that that's how it always was here. I figured it's so exposed that maybe it's just always windy, but it's really pretty calm. There's like a little breeze, but it's pretty calm. Yeah. How are the pancakes?
Very good.
Good, yeah. They came out better this time. And this guy is very tired from being a lunatic yesterday, right? Yeah, you did all the dog things. We decided today we're gonna go into town and kind of see what's around in the area, because we've just been hanging out at the campsite, which I think is a really good thing. It just goes to show how much we like this campsite. I really like this campsite. It's one of my favorites that we've had, I would say, in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's up there for quality of campsites.
For like privacy,
Access to the beach.
access to the beach,
Shade.
Yeah, all the things you want. Starlink works, solar works great. What more do you want? Right next to our campsite is the parking area, and there's the beach access. Very convenient. Dumpster, that's also nice. Throw out the trash. There's the bathrooms. Pat's getting water. Now the interesting thing is the bathrooms and showers are separate, which confused me in the beginning. And there's your water fill. There's the showers up there. It is very basic. Cold water, literally just an on and off switch. And a nice skylight. And sometimes there's frogs in here. Yeah. But it's still nice to be able to rinse off at the end of the day. That dog was trying to escape. What are you doing, Red? There's no dump station here, which is why we're kind of doing our normal thing where we don't use the tanks. Just kind of camping mode. There is a dump station that you can use that's like, what?
17 minutes away.
So like almost a 20-minute drive from here, which for us is kind of, it's not really worth it. We might as well just do our normal thing and wash dishes in the tub and all that kind of stuff. And walk to the bathroom. Not a big deal. But I think that's part of why it's the high season right now. This is the last week in June, and there's still a lot of open campsites. Like, we've seen people coming in without reservations, which just blows my mind, because at Assateague you have to plan that 6 months to the day ahead if you want to get any kind of reservation there. Here, there's a lot of open spots. They're not all great spots, I will say. Some of them are better than others, but there's open spots. When you're in the campground, you feel like you are in the middle of nowhere, but when you get to the end of the street, there is a gas station and a little general store, so some close by amenities, which is kind of a nice mixture. We decided to take a drive around and explore more of the island, and then we were going to make our way up to the famous Cape Hatteras lighthouse. So I hope that you will join us in the next episode to see some of the other parts of the Outer Banks.
Well, you worried about you and me, the injustice, the next president to be, the news and what you hear, your career. It's time for you to face those fears, and it's all fair to be aware, and I'll be there, so don't be scared. Just take a deep breath of air, and 1, 2, 3 to 10, you begin to focus again, and though time flies, we'll have enough to realize this bigger than the both of us.